Here's how I quit my full-time job making about $58,000 per year and turned into a full-time digital nomad wholesaler, traveling the world, exploring new countries, and closing wholesale real estate deals every single month. In this video, I'm gonna go over the path that I took, the lessons that I learned, the changes I would make, and what I'd recommend for you if this is the lifestyle that you wanna live. And whether you wanna travel the world full-time like me or just do wholesaling real estate full-time, this video still applies, so be sure to stick around. When I first started being interested in real estate, I actually started with a fix and flip. I used a hard money loan, I borrowed some private money, and I was still working my full-time job, making about $32,000 a year as a fitness manager at a gym. So I was in charge of all the personal trainers. Thank God I didn't lose money. I actually broke even and ended up not making anything on it, but only making $32,000 a year. Had I lost $20,000, that would have set me back a crazy amount. So if you're getting just started, I probably wouldn't start with fix and flips. I would start with wholesaling real estate just because there's way less risk. It's probably the easiest thing to get into, and you can't suddenly just lose $20, $30, $40, $50,000 like you can when flipping houses. I then also did some house hacking, which if you guys have not looked into house hacking or heard of it, I'll make a video on that later, but effectively what it is you go buy a primary residence, and either it's a single family home and you get roommates, or it's a small multifamily like a duplex, triplex, or fourplex, and get tenants, and then you don't pay your monthly cost. So when I first got into real estate after my fix and flip, I house hacked a triplex, and then I house hacked a single family home. I was doing that while I was working my job, and while I was working my job, I was living very, very, very frugally, to the point where like I would go to the grocery store, and I'm obviously into fitness and I want to get my protein goals and whatnot. And so I went to the grocery store one time and I looked at the cost per gram of protein on every single protein source that I would eat, found the cheapest one, and only bought that. I never went to restaurants, never bought alcohol, never bought drugs, any of that kind of stuff. I was very diligent with my spending, and I would drive Uber on the weekends to be able to make even more money. I made sure when I was a fitness manager and then got promoted to general manager that I hit my bonuses and my commission as often as I humanly could, which was pretty much every single month, which was great. And I would take all that excess cash and just stock it away. So if you guys are looking to get into it, start saving money. And don't tell me you can't save money, you can. It's just gonna be uncomfortable. You're gonna have to stop using DoorDash, you're gonna have to stop buying alcohol, stop going out and doing fun things. Try and get a roommate or move into a less expensive apartment, downgrade your car, do whatever you need to do, but start saving cash as quickly as you can. That's what I did, and I do not regret that at all. 100% the decision I would still recommend. Now, I was working in the gyms in the 2020 era when COVID hit, and all the gyms obviously shut down, so I decided to go to Florida for a couple days. Ended up staying there for 6 weeks, and I was like, you know what, I'm gonna do real estate. Went back to the Carolinas, continued working, and then one day I was talking to my best friend, and he said, Eric, you should just quit, and you should go full-time into real estate, because that's what you've been talking about forever, and you need to just take the plunge. And that's what I did. I used 2 weeks of PTO, used that 2-week time to move down to Florida, and then put in my 2-week notice, try to cash out on more vacation time. That didn't really go as planned, but that's what I did to get out of my job. And in that process, I also sold the triplex and I sold the single family home. So I had money saved up, which if you guys are getting into it, wholesaling real estate is easier with money. Can you do it for free? Absolutely. I have videos on that. I've walked you guys through it. We teach that very in depth in the Freedom Fundamentals community, which if you guys are not in, it's $1 to join down below. But having money expedites the process, no questions asked. Now I say that, and then it took me 9 months to get a deal, but I'm gonna explain why it did and the changes I would make and the regrets that I had. So we have about $30,000 in cash saved up from the sale of those 2 properties and from stockpiling money away, moved to Florida, and I was like, all right, I got it. I was super cocky. I was like, I've got sales experience. I know how to run numbers. This can't be that hard. I paid for an advanced mentorship, which was way out of where I should have been. It was focusing on scaling a company you already had. But again, my cockiness got the best of me and I was like, I can do that. That was $12,000. That's regret number 1. If you guys are just getting started, you do not have to pay $10,000, $15,000, $20,000 for high-level coaching. Now, I'm not saying that high-level coaching is not good. There are some amazing people that offer high-ticket coaching. I do one-on-one coaching, and that's high-ticket, and I have some friends in the industry that also sell high-ticket stuff. But if you're brand new and you don't have that much money, don't spend it on coaching. Spend it on your business and learn from YouTube or pay for Freedom Fundamentals or pay for another community. The education is more or less the same to an extent. It's more so the access to that person that you get with the higher ticket coaching. So mistake number 1 is I spent $12,000 on high ticket coaching when I did not need it as a brand new wholesaler. Mistake number 2 that came with that coaching was going and building out everything at the exact same time. It was getting your website, your company, a call center, direct mail, trying to run Facebook ads, SEO, Facebook page, way too much stuff. I was overwhelmed, had no idea what I was doing, and the coaching was amazing, but I was just overwhelmed personally. So that was mistake number 2. If you guys are just getting started, pick 1 or 2 marketing methods. Don't worry about an LLC, don't worry about a website, don't worry about this, don't worry about that. Get on the phone with homeowners, make offers, sign contracts. You don't have to have an LLC, do it in your personal name. Just get on the phone. I was way too focused on trying to build out the perfect system and the perfect business and all this kind of stuff, and I never closed the deal. And if you're just getting started, having all that stuff can come later. You need it, you want it, but if your goal is to close a deal when you're just starting, you don't have to have it. You can just close deals by just calling homeowners left and right all day. That works. Moving on to mistake number 3 is I did not work my leads hard enough. If you guys are getting started and you're like, none of these sellers pick up my calls or none of this or none of that, it's not as easy as everybody on social media makes it seem. You're not gonna make 17 phone calls and make $50,000. It takes a lot of calls, a lot of attempts, a lot of cold calls, a lot of paid leads. It takes way more effort than most people on social media will tell you. And I was still under the impression that it didn't take that much effort. And so I didn't work my leads hard enough. I'd get some leads from my direct mail or from whatever, and I'd call them once or twice, maybe make an offer, and that was it. Call until you either sign the deal or they tell you to fuck off. It's one of the two. Or they sold the house to somebody else. That's it. They never stop becoming a lead. They are always a lead in your system. Those are my first 3 mistakes, so please take those and learn from them. After 5 months, I was out of money. I had no money left. I had about $500 left, and I still had rent, I still had car, I still had to pay for food, stuff like that. So I had to put wholesaling on pause and get a sales job. Because of my sales experience, I did pretty well. The first 2 weeks was training, and I remember texting my boss. I was like, hey, do I get paid for this week? Because I started on Monday, I want to get paid Friday, and he's like, oh, you get paid next week. And I was stressing. I was gonna get $500 and I was stressing about not getting paid that week because I forgot about getting paid the following week because I hadn't worked a job in 5 months. So anyway, I did the sales job. I started making about $6,000 to $12,000 a month within my very first month starting after the 2-week training period. And then I was back to living very, very frugally. I was living in a studio apartment above an auto body repair shop, paying $350 a month. I drove a very inexpensive car, and I was making $6,000 to $12,000 a month selling windows down in Florida. I then put all that money aside, and after 2 months of working that window job, I had some cash saved up. I kept working it, but then what I did is I hired 1 virtual assistant. The 1 virtual assistant's job was to make cold calls every day. That's it. From there, in between my appointments, weekends, and after work, I would work my leads relentlessly. From the day I hired my virtual assistant, it took me 60 days to close 2 deals and I made $25,000. So the first 7 months, I made nothing. Hired a VA, 60 days later, $25,000. If you guys have the budget for a VA, the VAs that we use are linked in the description down below. Highly recommend. So now we've gotten to where you've closed a deal, you've got some money, you're making some moves. After I closed the 25 grand, I quit the sales job and I was like, let's go full time. Again. Now, one of the biggest mistakes that a lot of people do make that thankfully I didn't is when you close that first deal or the second deal, you buy something stupid. If you close a deal for $10,000, $15,000, $20,000 and you go buy a $5,000, $6,000, $7,000, $10,000 Rolex, you're an idiot. You need to put as much money as you possibly can aside into an emergency fund and back into your business. You need to pay for more virtual assistants, pay for paid leads, start paying for a CRM, go get your LLC set up. This is when you invest in the company. Put off the fun things for later. And once I got to that point, it was more or less off to the races. I understood how to close deals. I was getting more leads coming in. I began to hire more people and grow and scale the company. So I had that set up, and now the question is, okay, how do you now travel the world full time and run the wholesale company? That's the beauty of having employees, and I have business partners, but if you don't have business partners and you want just employees, you can 100% do this. For an example, just 2 days ago, I was sitting on the beach, enjoying the day, getting some work done, and my virtual assistants were making cold calls. We were getting leads coming in. My virtual assistant acquisition manager was calling those leads, negotiating with homeowners, doing follow-ups, making offers, and got an offer accepted. So while I'm sitting on a beach, typing on my laptop or doing whatever I'm doing, looking at my next travel plans, my business is still running. My leads are still coming in. My acquisition managers are still making offers. We're still getting contracts signed. our disposition managers are still selling deals. So that's why when I say that when you first start closing deals, you need to reinvest, you need to really focus on building out the system so that you can then be able to step out of the business as soon as possible so that you can focus on growth of the company versus focusing on just getting the next deal, So the virtual assistant company we work with, that's in the description, they also have trained, ready to go acquisition managers. So if you're not just brand new and you have leads coming in and you're doing all the hats, you're doing acquisitions and you're doing dispositions, it might be time for you to look into hiring an acquisition manager. Their job is going to be work the leads and get contracts signed. Now you have to train them, you have to manage them, but once they're managed and once you know how to do that, then you're off to the races. And then all you have to do is start sell the deals. As you continue to grow, you can then go back to that company and hire a disposition manager. The disposition manager then sells the deals, and then your job is simply manage acquisitions and disposition managers and ensure the transactions go smoothly. You can work with companies called transaction coordinators. Their job is to ensure the transaction goes smoothly. So once the contract is signed with the seller, the acquisition manager is effectively done talking to them outside of scheduling walkthroughs. And once you sign with the buyer, the disposition manager is effectively done talking to them outside of scheduling walkthroughs. The transaction coordinator talks to the title company, the seller, you, and the buyer, and they make sure everything goes smoothly. So the day of closing, you just get a check and you don't have to do any of the follow-up, any of the calls, any of the kind of stuff that it takes to get a deal to the closing table. So that's how I got started. That's what I did to grow my company, and that's how I'm now able to travel the world full-time and still be closing wholesale real estate deals and fix and flip houses, all from the beautiful Caribbean island of Curacao. If you guys enjoyed the video, don't forget to comment, like, and subscribe, and we'll see you guys in the next one.